You know, there's a lot of leadership books in the market that this book will compete with. So let's just call that as it is. I don't know how many leadership books are printed every year, but are published, and so many of them take you on a journey, but it's a theoretical journey, and that's okay. That's fine. But I think true, authentic leaders take you on a journey because they've been on one themselves. And what I love about this book is it really is a reflection of a raw and real and imperfect leadership journey that Mike Easley has been on for 25 plus years. And so this is Mike's journey, and we get invited into it, and we get to decide whether it can have an impact on our lives or not. I've known Mike for many, many years now. First as an executive coach, and then as just a dear friend. And I can tell you that the guy behind the words in this book, I've watched him with Les and others. I've watched him craft a vision and then trip and fall and get up and keep moving to rally people around that vision and get better and better at doing that. I've watched Mike work with a board of directors that were mostly made up of hard to please, hard to impress ranchers in a roughshod community that they feel very passionate about, and yet he was able to bring them together and often move them in new directions they were uncomfortable with, but because of his conviction and with the team, with Les and others, get them on the same page. I've watched Mike work behind the scenes with messy employees and raise them to higher levels of moral development and higher levels of motivation. And on the other side of that coin, I've watched Mike struggle with opening the kimono and asking for feedback on his own messiness. And Les alluded to some of that. And be open to it and courageously take it and say, what can I learn from it? And how do I grow from it and become a better leader? I've watched Mike work with brand new, entry-level employees all the way to the governors of Wyoming to try to make Wyoming a more innovative, sustainable state. And that takes guts and that takes courage, especially while you're trying to be a CEO at the same time. And maybe more importantly, I've watched Mike show up and be a leader worth following when things were unraveling at home and things were difficult. And you got to walk in with a stiff upper lip, and you got to be there, and you got to be a servant for those that count on you every day. And that takes courage and that takes guts. And as it's been alluded to, all of this has been done in one of the most incredibly special movements in our country, the cooperative movement, which is really unique because it's made up of volunteers. The cooperative movement is made up of people for the people. And when you're working with a community inside a cooperative, you've got everybody from the stay-at-home mom and dad to a sophisticated CEO to maybe even the governor of a state, and you got to figure out how to bring them all together and move them passionately in a certain direction. And I watched Mike do that. So this book is about leadership principles from somebody who's been really tested in the fires of executive leadership. And let me talk just for a minute about Vicki said it very, very nicely. She said, your people want to know who you are. And I think readers want to know who you are too. Like, who's the person behind these pages, right? And I'd like to just spend just a moment for those of you that may be here because of the book, but don't know Mike as well, and talk about the character of the man behind the book. Mike is a guy, it's been alluded to a number of times here, I couldn't agree more, who carries himself with confident humility. He's got conviction, and when he believes in something, he's going to drive it forward. He's going to move it, and that conviction will carry it. But I think Les and Brian would attest to this. He knows he can't do it on his own because he stumbled trying to do it on his own. And you know, after you wake up and look the guy in the mirror for a while and go, well, how's that working for you? You learn that, hey, maybe it's better to surround yourself with people and help them become as passionate about that. And I think Mike learned to be humble in this journey. I don't know too many people that I've coached over the course of 30 years who are as other-centered as Mike Easley. He cares about the cooperative, he cares about people, he cares about the community. And I can tell you from a lot of hard conversations behind the scenes, behind the curtain, that bled through. That bled through for me deeply. Brian said it nicely. Mike has been a lifelong learner ever since any of us have known him, from being a master in the martial arts to becoming a world-class, in my opinion, CEO, to now reinventing himself. And not, you know, a lot of people would have just called it good, right? I've made the money, I've had the influence, you know, I'll go boarding now, you know, in Jackson Hole and spend my life doing that. But that's not Mike. Mike's not done having an impact in the world and making a contribution. And I'm sure whatever it comes after that, Mike, when you're 75 and we're having this conversation, you'll be reinventing yourself again and doing something else that's new. And we'll all be like Les going, where the hell does he get all that energy? But I so love that about you, because you draw the rest of us up to say, don't be complacent. You can never stop learning. If you know Mike, you know he's an innovator. And in the leadership community, you know, we like to talk about breakthrough. But if you're going to have breakthroughs, you got to break shit. And that takes courage. And I've watched Mike do new things inside the rural electric cooperative movement and try to take people out of the comfort zone and drive that. And it takes courage to do that. And finally, I think it's been said enough times already, but it's very clear that if you know Mike Easley, you know him to be a cause-oriented person. And I think what I love about what's behind this work is, you said it nicely, Mike, a minute ago, the movement is bigger than this book. This book is a piece of a larger movement of those of us who have come together and said, you know, we need more leadership in this country. I mean, I don't want to make a political comment, but you know, all you have to do is turn on the TV and watch the news and watch the debates and watch the coverage and go, man, if we could only get a little bit of down the road on these principles, would the world be better? And the answer is absolutely yes. So before I offer a toast, let me just say one final thing. Those of us on this call that have been in Mike's shoes know how incredibly difficult it is to wake up at 6 in the morning, look at an empty computer screen, and have to turn it into a chapter and do that 15 or 20 times. And Mike, I applaud you. I applaud you for doing the work. I applaud you for doing the work of putting your voice in something that when you do this, you put yourself out there, because you don't know how people are going to respond to this. You don't know how people will accept this. And there's nothing more vulnerable than this moment in time when a book gets launched, you put it out there in the world, you give it to people, and the kimono is open. And now you get to see how people respond. And I applaud you for the work and the guts and the courage to put your work out into the world. And the rest of us are the beneficiaries of that. So thank you.